and welcome to this edition of Inside AFIMSC. I'm Vicki Stein, and today we're fortunate to have one of our primary subordinate units, Air Force Security Forces Center expert and program manager for Small Arms Light Weapons Requirements, Master Sergeant Shaun Ferguson. Master Sergeant Ferguson is here to talk about the new Air Force handgun, the M18. Sergeant Ferguson, can you talk about the development of DoD's new handgun?
Back in 2007, the Air Force began looking at the capabilities required in a new handgun system program. After a few years of researching what we want to have in a new weapons platform and discussions with the joint service communities, the Army took over the program and began moving along with the full-scale DoD spectrum of requirements and capability sets that we built into a modular handgun program. The Army adopted our Air Force doctrine that we had developed up to that point and rolled it into a consolidated list of capabilities that would be pushed forward into what we have as the modular handgun system that's coming online now.
So how is the M18 different than the handgun we currently have?
So our current handgun, the M9, is a fixed platform that allows you to use 9mm ammunition and engage targets based on the exact capability of what it has. It's a semi-automatic pistol. The modular handgun system is allowing the DoD the capability of tailoring the weapon to the individual shooter through the use of grip modules that you can transition from a small or medium or large size hand grip. And that's just the beginning of the modularity. Beyond that, it will also be able to incorporate blank firing kits for training with our MWDs for weapons fire familiarization. It'll allow transition into a simunition system where we can do force-on-force training. And eventually it'll bring online even a suppression kit, so that way some of our special communities can reduce the signature of the overall system. And yet it remains the same handgun, able to transition and tailor based on your mission and what you're trying to accomplish.
Have you fired the new handgun?
Yes, I have.
And can you tell us a little bit about how different it feels from the M9?
Well, one of the first things shooters will understand is that there is a significant difference in the trigger pull of the system. With our current Beretta, we have the single and double action forms of fire, which can have a lot of pounds of pressure required to engage the trigger. Whereas our modular handgun system, the M18, has a 4.5 pound of pressure trigger pull consistently from first to last shot. This is going to be one of the biggest differences. Beyond that, when you're firing the M9, your first trigger pull, you're squeezing really hard through the entire round going off. And after that, you have a lot of play before the trigger will re-engage for your second, third, fourth shots. Whereas with the M18, it immediately goes into the one-shot trigger pull and the weapon fires off. And again, the consistency between firing. Beyond that, you're going to notice a different in the distribution of the weight profile, whereas the Beretta, overall, the weight was spread out throughout the entire handgun. With the modular handgun system, a lot of the weight comes on top of the shooter's hands because that's where your metal slide is. The grip itself is just a polymer. And so you have the ammunition capacity that you've loaded into the system, providing the secondary set of weight. So the weight distribution is a little bit different for the average shooter as well.
Did you find that the safety was different on the M18? I understand you push it one way, and on the M9 you push it a different way to put the safety on. Okay,
so for the M9, when you have your safety on, it's in the downward position. You're taking it off, you put it in the upwards position, and it's also located on the slide. With the M18, they have reversed that, and so down is safety off, up is safety on. The other changes that have occurred with that individual safety is it's actually located on the receiver itself and not up on the slide. So it's a little bit easier to fit into the operator's thumb for actuation. It is ambidextrous like the Berettas. And another difference is where engaging the safety on the Beretta M9, you can still pull the trigger. It just weapon won't go off. Whereas with the M18, it's a trigger safety, so when the safety is engaged, you cannot pull the trigger.
So how many M18s is the Air Force purchasing?
So the total Air Force handgun requirement is approximately 122,000 weapon systems.
And when are they starting to field it to the security forces personnel?
So a decision was made with the fielding sequence to begin with the Air Force Security Forces mission, and then we'll branch it into Battlefield Airmen, the Guardian Angel communities, OSI, and the other high-level users of the handgun system before transitioning it into the aircrew communities and then the rest of the base populace who requires handgun systems. Fortunately, due to the low-cost volume of the particular weapons platform, we're able to purchase the entire Air Force quantity in about the next 3.5 years delivery schedule, and we can transition all Air Force handguns into the M18 over the next 3.5, 4 years.
So who has received it so far?
So for our first delivery shipment, a decision was made to send a portion to Joint Base Andrews. That way we could knock out an entire MAGCOM in one shot. And we also sent it to the Combat Arms Apprentice course, so that way it can begin being taught to new Combat Arms instructors as they come through the tech school. And we also sent a portion to the Air Force Gunsmith Shop for historical evaluations, developmentals of things beyond the base program, and other capability sets that can be done with the Gunsmith Shop's unique capabilities.
When the units receive the weapons, what happens? What's the process?
So when the weapons arrive on the installation, first LRS has to process them and add them to the unit's inventory. So then the unit can then take possession of the weapon systems. Additionally, all combat arms, all new weapons have to be inspected by combat arms before they can be issued out to that particular unit and utilized. So we'll have to do an initial inspection arranged by the combat arms shop for that servicing security forces unit. And once they've been assessed and they validate that they're intact and functioning correctly, the unit will have to begin qualification on the system. Your M9 qual will not translate into your M18 because it is a different weapon system. So depending on how the commander wants to roll it out, he can qualify everybody immediately, or he can roll it out as your your M9 expires. You can then qualify on the M18. So we'll leave that up to the local commanders to determine how they want to do that.
Well, I'm sure airmen will be looking forward to the new M18. They'll be hearing more about it as time goes on. Thank you for your time today, Sergeant Ferguson. I'm Vicki Stein. Thanks for listening to this edition of Inside AFIMSC.